but my strength is forgiveness.
Okay, hello again, everybody. And thank all of you who are watching on the live stream, and thank all of you who might watch this as a YouTube video later on. We appreciate that, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch all our YouTube videos. We have YouTube videos, there's a couple of hundred of them now, so a lot of inspiration, a lot of wonderful speakers on our YouTube channel. Okay, happy Hanukkah. It is Hanukkah. This is the first day of Hanukkah. Actually, Hanukkah begins tonight at sundown. So I understand that, and I apologize to my stricter Jewish friends for actually lighting a menorah and celebrating Hanukkah now, because I know it's daytime, and I know technically that is not correct, but I also know that you will forgive me. Okay, so I'm going to light the menorah. And I'm probably not going to be able to see this on the live stream, but that's okay.
Yeah, they can see it.
Oh, you can see it? Woo-hoo, well, take my word. Good, okay, well, great. Okay, so this is a menorah. It's not actually a classic menorah, but it's one that I got at a thrift store once, and I always loved it. So, I believe I placed the candles correctly. There's a little confusion about that, but this first candle is the servant candle, or the shamush, as they say, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The shamush. And the shamush is lit because that's like the eternal light, and then there are 8 little places for 8 candles, and each day you would put another candle, and I'm told that the candles start on the right and progress to the left, but if you're lighting them, then you light them from the left to the right. So I looked that up, and that's what I was told. I was doing it wrong for years. Okay, so what this celebrates is when they reclaimed the temple, when the Jewish people reclaimed the temple, they wanted to light the temple lamp. And they used very special oil in the temple lamp. They used purified and sanctified and blessed oil, a kind of olive oil, and there wasn't enough oil for the lamp to burn for the 8 days that it would take them to consecrate new oil. So there was some discussion about whether or not they should light the lamp or not, because they didn't have enough oil and they didn't want the lamp to go out. But the decision was made to light the lamp. That's the big thing. The decision was made to light the lamp. And then the miracle was, and they always call it a miracle, so this is one of the reasons why I love embracing Hanukkah, because they talk about it as the miracle of the lights. The miracle was, even though there was oil only for 1 day, that the lamp burned for a full 8 days. And that's why on each day you light an additional candle. So we're going to, with the shamush, if I'm pronouncing that right. Am I pronouncing that right? And there we go. So let me give you a little more background about Hanukkah. This was in the 2nd century before the birth of Jesus, which we used to call BC, meaning before Christ, but the current way to do it in a more secular manner is BCE, which means before the Common Era. So in the 2nd century, before the Common Era, actually the year sometimes is a little different, but we believe the year was like 164 BCE. A little also about menorahs. There's another menorah, and they get confused. There's another menorah that has just 7 candles. And people wonder about why there's a 7-candled menorah and then this 9-candled menorah. So this is a particular menorah that was designed to celebrate the Hanukkah light miracle. And it's a little bit based on the traditional menorah, which just had 7 candles, and that's a replica of what actually burned in the temple. So there were 7 principles they were honoring. They also was the 7 days of the week, and a variety of things that the 7 stood for. Numerology probably could tell me something about 7. You can tell us that. Okay, there you go. You can tell us about that in the discussion, Reverend Brad. I know he's a numerologist. So the lamp that they lit in the temple was this seven light menorah. And I found out a little bit more about that today, that it was actually 5.3 feet tall. So I mean, it's actually a pretty tall thing. And the whole blueprint of how to construct that menorah that was actually in the temple is in the Bible. It's in Exodus in chapter 25. They talk about how, exactly how that menorah that burned in the temple was actually supposed to be constructed, and it was pure gold and a whole variety of things. So the reason why the temple had to be reclaimed and rededicated was that about 4 years before, the Syrians had come in and taken over the region, and they killed many people, and they killed many Jewish people, and they took over the temple. And so they took over the temple, and then they used it for their own rituals, and they put a statue of Zeus in the temple, because Zeus was who they were worshiping, and there was a long uprising to drive the Syrians out, and eventually this young warrior, Jewish person named Judas Maccabee, and he was called the Hammer. And I found out that the reason why he was called the Hammer was because his soldiers used hammers to kill people.
Ew.
That's kind of disgusting, isn't it? But to bash them with hammers. That's why he was called the Hammer. And,
Oh my God.
which is one of the things I wanted to talk about today. A lot of all these myths and legends and religions, and a lot of it had to do with the God you worshipped who you thought brought victory, military victory to your side. So let's not forget that we've taken what we like out of these stories and forget that there's a lot of violence woven into a lot of them. Anyway, the Maccabees, under the leadership of Judas Maccabee, the Hammer, hammered them out of existence. I guess the Syrians out of there, and the Syrians out of the temple, and then they reclaimed the temple. And then we have the beautiful story about the lamp and lighting it. And the temple lamp menorah was never supposed to go out. And so there's a lot of questions about this. How did the lamp stay lit? How did that miracle happen? And I've talked about this before. I mean, the truth is, there was no scarcity of olive oil, which is what they actually burned in these lamps, in Jerusalem at the time. Everybody had lamps. Everybody was burning olive oil for their lamps. But they wanted a particular ritual, sanctified, purified olive oil to do it. So, some people said, well, some rabbi just snuck in there and put, just some unpurified oil in there. Who knows? But it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like the loaves and the fishes out in the desert feeding the 5,000. 5,000 people didn't go to the desert without any food. Everybody probably had food. So it's just that you start the process by just seeing what you have and blessing it and declaring it good and start passing it around. And then the miracle happens, however it happens, but everybody has food and they're sharing it. It's still a miracle. So they lit the lamp. How did it burn for 8 days when there was only oil for 1 day? I don't know. Does it really matter? Because the miracle was that they took a step forward in faith and did what they needed to do, did what they were guided to do to symbolize the truth and the blessing and the love and the abundance that they know is the truth. And that's the miracle. How the oil actually got there, who knows? Okay. There is a prayer that Jewish people say when they light the menorah, and it's traditionally spoken in Yiddish. So I'm not gonna try to do that, but I will tell you the translation of the prayer. It says, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to kindle the Hanukkah light. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who performed miracles for our forefathers in those days at this time." So they're blessing and just acknowledging this miracle of abundance. It's really a miracle of abundance and light that took place in the year 164 BCE. So, as I said, this whole thing about these rituals and these traditions having been interwoven with military victory. I mean, that's kind of all throughout the history of religion. We have Christianity today probably as this pervasive, huge world religion because in the 4th century, Emperor Constantine had some vision that if his troops painted the Christian symbol of a cross on their shields, they would win in battle. And they did that, and they won. And so that's how Christianity would eventually become the state religion of Rome and the popular religion that it is today. So, you know, many of us, when we love Jesus and, you know, Course in Miracles, Christian, maybe, maybe not, I don't know, but it's built upon Christianity. And, you know, there is this whole stuff in its background. There wouldn't be Christianity as it is in the world today if some Roman emperor hadn't thought that it actually is what brought victory to his troops in battle. So, you know, does that mean we give up on all that? No. It just means that maybe we progressed. I mean, that's what I hope it means, that we've progressed out of this idea that violence is really what is necessary and needed, or that we live in a violent time. And you got to think about how all-pervasive that consciousness was, that people just assumed that you were continually going to be in battle with your neighbors, with other countries. I mean, that was a very pervasive mindset, in fact, just until like a century or so ago, that really started to fade. And it's, you know, it's faded, I think, quite a bit, at least from our consciousness. But that's a very pervasive idea, mindset. I mean, think about the history of Europe and how they just battled with each other in England and France, warring in Spain. They were warring all the time. And now the idea of England going to war with France just seems sort of funny. But they did it all the time. And so, you know, things have progressed. Things are moving along, I think, because people at some point lit a lamp for peace and just decided to make what steps they could, even though it didn't seem to be the pervasive idea. And I think we need to continue to do that too. So where is there a lamp to be lit for us in the end of 2019? Well, I don't think we have to look very far. I mean, you know, the President of the United States was impeached this past week. And that is, you know, this huge thing of discord, and, you know, there's a lot of thought on both sides of it as it really being an all, you know, the liberals think it's really awful that they had to impeach him. Of course, the conservatives think it's really awful that he's being impeached with something they believe is really not of that much consequence. And so everybody, you know, is back and forth. And I don't want to take a side on any of that. You know, basically I'm a liberal politically, but I also don't want to demonize the president and the current administration. You know, I want to see the good in everybody, and I want to see the good in this whole process. So I just turn it over and let it go. I mean, I want to light the lamp. I want to light the lamp of peace, and I want to be the shamush here. You know, I want to be the servant with the light that's lighting the lamp, so that people can find something good. I mean, it's good. Our political process works. It's good. You know, that we're going to move through a process and come to the end of it, however it happens. It's all good. And I don't want to demonize the other side. A Course in Miracles actually uses this idea of a lamp quite often. I mean, like 7 or 8 times. So I've got just a few of the quotes about the lamp. It's obviously using it as a metaphor. It is one of the metaphors in A Course in Miracles. So let's look at a few of the times when A Course in Miracles uses the term the lamp. And actually, Reverend Brad read a number of these in the reading. It says, I come to you from your Father, this is Jesus talking, to offer you everything again. Do not refuse it in order to keep a dark cornerstone hidden. For its protection will not save you. I give you the lamp, and I will go with you. You will not take this journey alone. So Jesus here is bringing us the light. Jesus is the shamush, bringing us the light, and we're the first candle there, you know, taking the light. And now we shine together. Now we're not alone. And we bring that light to all of our sisters, brothers, others out there, to the world. And so bring that light. I'm trying to bring that light. My sister, who's a very conservative Republican, very upset about the impeachment. I tried to talk with her and hear her and share some of my thoughts with her. And it was good. It was good. First of all, we have no idea how the impeachment's going to work out. And actually, President Clinton got more popular when he went through his impeachment. It could actually make Donald Trump more popular. We really don't know how this is going to play out. So I just shared some of those thoughts with her, and that it's very unlikely that he's going to get removed from office because of the way the Senate is. It's just the process that is going on, and we can just look at it and actually just be neutral about it. And that's what I am trying to do. But understand that that was the light I was guided to share with my sister at that time. Her first thing was to call me up the morning after the impeachment got voted, and she was mad at me for living in San Francisco because we've elected Nancy Pelosi, and it was Nancy, so she was like angry at me for being part of the energy that produced Nancy Pelosi that resulted in the impeachment of the president. And it's great. I just talked to her. It's okay, and, my sister and I get back to loving each other in no time. So if I can heal and be wonderful, if I can be the light and the shamush for my sister, we can all do that for everybody. We don't have to get so partisan that we cannot do that. I mean, my own challenges, this week and the last few weeks, just so much to do, the conference work to do, all the holiday work to do. The Miracles Monthly went on Friday. Thank you, Reverend Steve and Reverend Deuce Althea, for your help in Miracles Monthly. All the CMC holiday cards went out on Tuesday. Thank you, David, for help putting all the CMC holiday cards out, my own personal holiday cards out. Everything gets done, and that light gets shared. And part of it is because I realize that my role is to be the shamush. I'm here to be the servant. I'm here to just spread light as much as I can, wherever there's an open lamp that needs to be lit, then I will do what I can to light it, because that's how I get my fulfillment. That's how I get my joy. And then together we shine that light together. And I get tired, and I have ego thoughts about how I wish I wasn't doing this, and I wish I had more spare time, things like that. And I just shine the light on those. The truth is, I'm doing what the Holy Spirit wants me to do, and that's where my fulfillment and my joy come from. And I want to be joyful, and I want to feel fulfilled, and I do. So what could be better than that? Some spare time activity that I've idolized at some time in my past and I think is going to make me happy. The truth is, it's not going to make me happy. But those are just like little thought forms that float around that I shine the light on and shine them away. Okay, here's another one. This one had a lot of he's and hymns in it, and so I took those all out and just put what they were referring to in it so that it wasn't confusing. So I'm not reading it exactly as it appears in the book because I replaced the pronouns with the actual nouns. Okay, because the miracle worker has heard the Holy Spirit, the miracle worker strengthens the Holy Spirit's voice in a sick brother by weakening the sick brother's belief in sickness, which the miracle worker does not share. The power of one mind can shine into another because all the lamps of God were lit by the same spark. It is everywhere and it is eternal. So we're all the lamps of God. Everybody, conservatives and liberals alike, we're all the lamps of God. We're all lit by the same spark, and we can all light each other. And so the miracle worker, when he encounters fear or anger or sickness, we join with that person. We join with the light in that person. We don't join in their belief in that sickness, that belief in that fear, that belief in that anger. We join in the truth of the love and the wholeness and the oneness that is the truth. And that's us being the shamush and lighting their light. And then we can burn together. and the miracle will happen. It doesn't matter what's going on that appears like lack of oil or lack of fuel. Somehow, the miracle is going to happen. The fuel is going to be there. The light's going to stay lit because we step forward in faith and lit the lamp, which is really the whole story of Hanukkah. Okay, one more thought, a quote with lamp in it. It says, "We are ready to look more closely at the ego's thought system because together," this is Jesus talking to us, "because together we have the lamp that will dispel it. And since you realize you do not want it, you must be ready." So when we really realize, I don't want the ego's thought system. I don't want a thought system that tells me that 50% of the country is nuts. What kind of fun? That's not fun to live in a world like that. I don't want to live in a world like that. That's an ego thought. That can't be the truth. And we have Jesus and I and all of you, and with the shamush that I share with the congregation every week, and that you share back with me, we have the light to shine that away. And that's what this season means for me, and that's what Hanukkah means for me. I think Jesus is our model. He's our model. He offered his light to the world every chance he could. Sometimes it appears that he slipped a little bit, but he always, found himself again and came back to himself and became that source that was sharing the light. And we can do that. So be aware of anybody or any thought system that you hear or have about this being dark times for the country, and be the lamp. Be the lamp. Shine the light. Give it a different thought. Join with that other person. You don't have to agree with them politically, but you can agree that you're both loving, joyful people and eternal, infinite lights at your core. Share that with them. That's you being the shamush. That's you joining with Jesus to light all the lamps of God so that we can burn for an infinity of light. That's my talk for today. Thank you. I didn't like that. Okay, very good. Are we still burning?
Have you been lonely? Have you been sad? How does it feel to lose such a close